Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, February 27th, 2022, we are now in day 4 of the ongoing war between Ukraine and the Russian Federation. And top of my list today and things I wanted to talk about, it would appear that Russia has elevated its nuclear posture. The Kremlin, under the auspice of hearing various rhetoric from NATO, has declared that it is increasing its nuclear posture. And again, what does that mean, and what could be the ramifications of that? Well, I think the reason the Russians are doing what they're doing in terms of the whole nuclear posture is not necessarily what NATO is saying, but what the West is in fact doing. So the main issues right now for Russia, obviously, are some of the economic sanctions. Among those, some of those swift implementations that will become in effect fairly soon. But most importantly, is on the military side of the equation, and that is the amount of support the Ukrainians are in fact receiving from the West, countries such as Poland, Lithuania, Estonia, and now in the United States, and now Germany is going to send quite a bit of assets in terms of anti-tank guided weapon systems and air defense systems as well, and then quite possibly additional items that may also be sent. But what's even more important is the things that are happening behind the scenes that the mainstream media is not necessarily talking about. And I discussed this before in my previous episode in regards to the sharing of intelligence with the Ukrainian military. This is very, very important, and it's becoming a real thorn in the side of the Russians. The NATO, working with the Ukrainian military, has the ability to let the Ukrainians know when aircraft are inbound towards Kiev or other places around the Ukraine that is under attack by the Russian Federation. They're able to share intelligence that would assist the Ukrainians when the Russians start to move conventional forces around the country, or getting ready to launch attacks in certain areas. So again, the Ukrainians are then able to maneuver their forces in position to possibly defend against those conventional attacks from Russia. At the same time, again, when fixed-wing assets and air support are being dispatched to a certain area, again, the NATO surveillance systems are able to assist the Ukrainians in terms of letting them know when the Russians are basically getting ready to come in with air power. And again, this is causing the Russians definitely a bit of serious challenges right now. And we're seeing that both on the battlefield. We're seeing it, in fact, in the air as well. And so, what is the Russian plan going forward at this point? So, the Russians, and specifically the powers that be in the Kremlin, really have no choice in terms of what they have to do. They have to win this war, and they're not in a position. The political apparatus in the Kremlin is not in a position right now to simply turn around and leave Ukraine. I do believe that we keep hearing that the Russians were not prepared for the level of resistance that they're seeing inside of Ukraine, and I think that's incorrect. I think the Russians were prepared and they knew it was possible, but they weren't really sure in terms of what level of resistance that they would in fact see inside of Ukraine. Now, with that being said, the Russians are in fact being very, very restrained in some of their deployment strategies in regards to facing off against the Ukrainians. I saw one a video, I believe it was in this area near Chernihiv, where a crowd of Ukrainian citizens were marching down the road in front of these Russian tanks, and were forcing them to back up. So again, the Russians could have taken direct action on those civilians, but again, they were being very, very restrained. I would say go back to World War II, as the Russians were closing in, let's say on Berlin, and if German citizens had come forward trying to stop Russian tanks, what do you think would have happened to those German citizens? Well, I doubt the tanks would have backed up. At the same time, the Russians have not taken down a lot of some of the infrastructure that supports the ongoing war efforts by Ukraine, and they have not done that yet. The power is still on in Kiev. The president of Ukraine, Zelensky, is still broadcasting to the population. So a lot of these things that Russia could have done to help itself in this ongoing conflict, it has not done as of yet. Now, again, that's not to say that is not going to happen. I think the initial operation for the Russians were to bust through the forward lines near the Belarusian Ukraine border and drive as quick as they could in hopes that the Ukrainian army would capitulate. Now, obviously, we're not seeing that, so Russia is going to have to use new tactics to win this war. Or I wouldn't say new tactics. They're going to have to go to different options that are in their tool bag. They just have not utilized as of yet. And I think the Russian general staff, I believe it has dawned on the Russian general staff that the storming of Kiev is probably not going to work and have a successful outcome at this stage of the conflict. And that's why we are seeing these broad frontal operations right now, where they are encircling some of these major cities. The media is reporting, yes, that Russia, for instance, attempted to fight its way into Kharkov. Now, with that being said, these were not heavy conventional forces. These forces that entered Kharkov appear to be, based on the footage that I have seen, again, reconnaissance elements, National Guard units, and special operations forces that attempted to enter Kharkov. They have not shelled the city yet en masse, which they could. They could rubble the city and continue. But right now, what appears to be occurring is they're trying to seal these off and then bring in National Guard units. And at a certain point, these cities, and these are very, very large cities with 1 million plus people living in them. And when you seal these cities off and then you start to turn off power, you start to restrict food into these cities, it's going to change what is happening on the ground rather quickly. And they may, in fact, capitulate. But again, that is going to take some time, and I think that is the Russian strategy right now, is to simply seal them off let them start to run out of food supplies, cut power off, and then have them surrender. But again, at the same time, the Russians, I think, anticipated that they could see the level of resistance, but it's actually happening. So I think the Russian thought process, well, on a resistance scale of, we could see from 1 to all the way to 10, and I think they were hoping for between 1 and 4, and what they're actually getting right now is about an 8. So very, very challenging war right now for the Russians, but I do believe they've prepared for that. And if they did not prepare for that, and they're going to have some major reorganizing and strategizing in order to win this conflict. And I don't believe it is an option for Putin, for the inner circle in the Kremlin, to not win this conflict. Walking away with limited gains, given the magnitude of the operation, is something that I just don't believe they can walk away from at this point. At the same time, I am concerned about escalation. As a human being on this planet, and understanding the nuclear arsenal that Russia has, understanding the nuclear arsenal that the United States has, I would say going into this, I was about, in terms of a level of concern, I had about a 5% thought process or concern that this could develop into a third world war. I would say since the last 24 hours, with what's occurring, that has increased to now 10%, all the way to about 15%, that this could in fact escalate into a very large global war. And again, at some point, the Russians are going to have to do something about the weapons that are coming in to the Ukraine. Given the population in Western Ukraine, and it's significant, that is anti-Russian, and are going to be heavily armed by some very advanced weapon systems. This could get, and again, I've talked about this before the conflict started, that this was going to be a very, very messy conflict, and it was going to last some time outside of of some sort of a political decision or political compromise. But I don't see how a political compromise could occur at this point, especially on the side of, if you look at it from the side of the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin. And again, if the Russians do withdraw, then obviously the Ukrainians are going to rearm, and they may declare that they're not going to be part of NATO, but they will then become de facto NATO. They're going to rearm. They're going to become a very, very heavily armed nation, given the fact that they've been attacked like this. And that does not bode well for any kind of future proofing that Putin was trying to do with Ukraine. So I don't think Putin has a choice at this point, other than continue to drive on and seek a military victory in this conflict. But again, those continued deployments of weapons into Ukraine are going to curtail that military victory at some point. And compounding that is the level of additional support that the Ukrainians are receiving from the West, from NATO, from the United States. And again, that's intelligence. That's in all probability direct support on the ground with Central Intelligence Agency, special activities groups, and I guarantee you that they're on the ground, and probably a lot more there than we even can envision at this point. But again, things aren't looking good in terms of how this could end, and the gravitational pull towards a possible escalation with other countries involved. Again, changing that nuclear posture is just not bluster. He's doing that for a reason. And again, we'll just have to watch what is happening. Obviously, I'm going to close out right now, a little lengthy video. And I will certainly have more very, very soon, talking about more of the tactical environment, strategic environment of what is happening right now on the ground in the war between Russia and Ukraine. Have a good day.